Good evening, or good day, or good morning. However it is, you made the right decision by clicking on this video. Pelicans Daily presented by Fan Arts. I'm your host, Dylan Bruton. Make sure to like, to share, to subscribe, because when you're chilling with Dill, you already know the drill. Hey. Well, what's going on? Well, another player from our summer league team was waived. We just got rid of Lester Quinones, and well, I guess it's just one of those days. Now, I'm a little less sad about Lester than I am with Antonio Reeves. Why? Well, the thing with Lester, Lester definitely is a talented player, and I think that he's going to get picked up by someone else. But he didn't really have the type of summer league that I expected him to. He had more NBA experience than everybody else on this particular on our roster, and yet he only averaged about 8.5 points per game. He didn't shoot well. He shot 30. He shot under 40% from the field. He shot under 30% from three, and he didn't really show that as a player he can do much for the team outside of be a shot putter upper. Because shot creator, even that's a little bit loose. You know what I'm saying? He can kind of get a shot off the dribble, but he's more comfortable getting a shot, adjusting, finding room in the screen, and pulling up. But yeah, it just I was I don't want to say I was disappointed, but I was just a little bit maybe underwhelmed. I expected a lot more. And after he had that 20-point game against LA, I was like, oh, I mean, not LA. That 20-point game versus Minnesota. I was like, okay, Lester. You know what I'm saying? Because Lester 2 years ago at the Summer League was one of the best players in the entire thing. And he really, was playing hungry and hard. I'm not saying he wasn't playing hungry and hard here, but I don't know what's going on, y'all. I apologize. Um, I do have my stuff on Do Not Disturb. Let me do this real quick. Let me do it on my computer too, so that way. All right, my bad, y'all. Oh yeah, like I said, I'm in a new location. I'm over here. I'm in the same city that Hulk Hogan just died in, Clearwater, Florida. Yeah. Talk about ironic. Here for a wedding. That's why I was. We were at the rehearsal dinner. That's why I'm a little more dressed up and spiffy. But yeah, I was expecting more from Lester. I can't lie. I mean, he had the most NBA experience of any players that we had, and he, addressed the need that we needed, 3-point shooting, and he's a good locker room guy. He's well respected, and he just he didn't do too much, and it's kind of tough to warrant and justify keeping him on the team when he only was averaging like 6.5 a game anyway. So best of luck to Lester. Think he's a great guy. I know some other team is definitely going to pick him up, find a way to utilize him, but I just think it was a little bit, a little bit overkill. Is a little bit, maybe a little bit, maybe a bit redundant. You know what I'm saying? Just given. But now with the waiving of Lester Quinones, we do have one more opening for a two-way spot. So right now, Trey Alexander has one of them. Hunter Dickinson has another one. And it's likely going to be between Keon Brooks and Christian Shoemate. So we'll see. I'll definitely talk about that next episode. But I had to talk about Lester. All the best to him. Again, got nothing but respect for him. He's a great guy. And I know he's respected in that locker room. And some team is going to take a chance on him, make no mistake. But it just unfortunately, the card, things were not in his card and in his favor. So what can you do about that? But speaking of a guy who has had things in his favor, oh my God, what is going on? There we go. Trey Murphy III. Let's talk about Trey Murphy. Well, he just reacted to old clip of him against the Grizzlies where he had that 360, but really it was a 180. But I mean, I can't even do a 70 or 80 myself. So you know what? Damn it, we can call that a 360. One of the craziest alley-oops from Jose and just in general that I've ever seen from a player. I mean, that was like some Vince Carter stuff. And he reposted that, excited. And, I haven't talked about Trey Murphy in a while. But I'm very excited for what I think Trey Murphy is going to do this year. I think he's another guy who I think is a borderline all-star this year. In fact, I would go as far to say, he might end up having the second best odds after Zion, maybe even more than Jordan Poole. And why? I mean, he showed it last year. He showed that he could be a lead guard. He showed that he could be a guy that you build the team around, a building block. He showed that he's a guy that is only improving from here. There was a reason why all these different teams were calling about him and were so intrigued, because he hasn't even hit anywhere close to his ceiling. I mean, he's 6'8", 6'9". The young man can create his own shot, can space the floor, can defend, and just imagine what he does in a couple of years, the more comfortable he is. So, yeah, there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot to be excited about with him. I'm very excited for him this year, though. I think Trey Murphy, again, in my humblest of opinion, I think that he could end up being a borderline all-star. That's not a crazy expectation to set, and, he's a guy that has already gotten a lot of love in the city. He's already been able to cultivate that sort of appreciation. He's very active in the community. He does a lot of youth camps. So I think just that's the kind of guy that you want to see continue to blossom. And he has with us. So I'm excited to see what Trey Murphy does. I'm excited to see what Zion does, obviously. I'm excited to see what I had to get my water. I'm excited to see what Jordan Poole does for us. I'm excited to see what Herb Jones does now that he's been fully signed. But I'm very excited to see what Trey does, because I think he's going to take another leap, personally. And he's got the type of game where he can take over if you need him to, but he also can play a complementary role. He's like the perfect. He is the most perfect 3-and-D wing you could get. But he's not a 3-and-D wing that's like, oh my God, the three isn't open. What am I going to do? No, he can create off the dribble. He can get his own shot. His mid-range game is getting nice. And he's got some yammers. He's got some dunks on him. So expect big things from Trey Murphy this year. I'm still got him penciled in the 20-point range. He could maybe get higher. Just all depends on how the rest of the team structure is. Whew, that water was good. We was eating good today. Woo, and we're going to eat good tomorrow too. All right, next up, CJ McCollum. CJ, I love you. I got nothing but respect for you. I appreciate everything that you did for the game, for us, at Lehigh. But I got to call you out on this one, my man. You are the prime definition example, right? So CJ McCollum just did a podcast interview, and this is right after him kind of, I guess you could say, stepping down, but now Fred VanVleet is the president of the Players Association, which, hats off to Fred VanVleet, man. I mean, Fred VanVleet was a guy that was undrafted, and he had to fight and claw his way up. And I love using that phrase because it's just the perfect way to describe the journey, the grind of trying to get to that level. And, it's quite crazy, what I'm saying. He's turned himself into an all-star champion. And I remember when he was at Wichita State with Clee Anthony Early and Ron Baker. That was a squad right there, man. That team was a lot of fun to watch. But he did a podcast with the young man in the three, and he was asked questions. Especially he was talking about like a team like OKC, who they're doing what we're trying to do, which is build from the draft, build from the ground up. And he said, you shouldn't be punished for drafting well. And a lot of people were like, pot calling the kettle black, throwing stones out of a glass house. Are you sure you're in the position to talk about that, considering what you have just now created and implemented with the new CBA? It's like hearing a politician saying like, "Oh, there's no money for this," when you just saw them implement a new bill and strategy that directly impacted the said money that would have gone into it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're the one who made that happen, though. Like, what? And I got respect for CJ, but when I heard that, I was just like, really, CJ? Really? Like, you clearly been in DC. You getting used to being in DC now, huh? You learning how to smooth talk and sell a dream like all those guys up there in them corporate suits. Not to get political, but I'm just like, come on, CJ, don't insult our intelligence. You have literally instilled a structure and a system where now teams are going to get punished for drafting well. And that was a concern for us because it's like a lot of our guys we have drafted. So that's why there was all this talk about her being moved. There was all this talk about Trey Murphy being moved. Obviously, we know Zion's name has been in trade talk for the last 2-3 years. And it's more so been for reasons outside of basketball or just the fact that he's not been able to stay healthy and play a lot of games. But his contract is definitely a motivating factor, make no mistake. And then even guys like Jose Alvarado. I feel like looking into the NBA right now, we are a team that can capitalize if we stay healthy and also guys really buy into the team and the culture. Because it's tough. Like when guys are, when certain guys are going to be eligible for a higher payday, it would behoove, it'd be wrong to tell them not to take that, right? That's life altering money. That's money that they can take care of with their families, money that can be generationally impactful. And that's huge and that's immense. You want to look at all the wealthiest people in the world, it all goes back to multiple generations of wealth. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's like I can't fault, right, a guy being like, wait a minute, I can get paid max money elsewhere. Yeah, I might love this city and they might have watched me grow and improve, but a brother got to eat, a brother got family and all that to take care of. So I understand, I do. But now with this new CBA, you're almost in a way disincentivized from that. It's only like, well, you can maybe have three good players, and then you just gotta hope that you find I don't want to say the players from the scraps. That's a wrong terminology to use, but you find the guys that are kind of overlooked and aren't as appreciated. But I think this all is a knee-jerk reaction to Kevin Durant joining the Warriors in the 2016 offseason. I think a lot of people in the NBA were obviously and rightfully pissed because it was a perplexing move. Like that team just had you in a 3-1 chokehold, and you joined them. You could have joined a team like the Celtics, who were a good team, but they just needed that number one superstar to take them over the hump, and you would have been winning in one of the most respected franchises, and then one of the most. You could have won a ring with one of the most respected franchises, one of the most important franchises in sports in general, and you could have added a whole legacy and legend to your name as the de facto number one guy, unquestioned. But now, unfortunately, right, people are going to look at your rings a little bit more analytically and not give you as much of the benefit of the doubt. Even though Kevin Durant played amazing in 2017 and 2018, I'm not going to let anybody say that he didn't. And then he was playing well in 2019 prior to that. I mean, the stuff that KD is still able to do at his age is insane. One of the greatest players that we'll ever see, one of the greatest scorers we'll ever see. But I think I think this new CBA is a knee-jerk reaction to that era, right? Seeing 4 all-stars get together. I think they got Boogie at some point, and he had injuries. I mean, that would have been crazy if they had a healthy Boogie. Oh my God. A healthy Boogie, a healthy KD, Draymond, Clay, Steph. Jeez. That's my team right there. You know what I'm saying? That's a team where you build that team in my team in 2K. But I think it's tough because if you can make that happen, why wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? Life is not always fair. Like life is just not always set up that way. In life, there is a winner and there is a loser. I hate to say it like that. Um, that doesn't sound very egalitarian, but I just hate to break it that way. That's why you have to work. You got to work hard. You gotta really want it. And if I have the means to execute something like that, I will. I'm like, why wouldn't you? If you're Bob Myers in Golden State, why wouldn't you have taken that opportunity? Right? You have an opportunity to add one of the greatest players of all time in your team. Now, it might look off to the eyes of the competitors and the eyes of the purists and historic. So yes, from that end, as a purist of basketball, I understand. But if you want to win a title, you're guaranteeing that you're gonna win now. So, but I hope that it doesn't impact us because we are building our team from the ground up, right? Zion, Trey, Herb. We'll see with Jose, Eve, Jeremiah, Derek Queen, Micah Peavy. DeJounte was traded to us. Jordan Poole was traded to us. But most of this roster was guys that were either drafted to us or signed to us. Carlo, Jordan Hawkins. You know what I'm saying? I could just go on and on and on and on. So I'm excited to see what we do this year. And I'm hoping that we're in a predicament where guys is like, look, I'm not saying I want to lowball myself, but I'm going to do everything in my power to remain here. That's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal. But CJ, you can't make comments like that, bro. I'm sorry. Like, all love and respect to you, but you can't make comments like that knowing you are the reason why. You wield the power to change that. You implemented that. So you should not be making those kind of comments. Respectfully. With all due respect to you, CJ, like I said, I call everybody out. I don't care who you are. I'm going to be objective. And yeah, CJ, that was all you, buddy. That was all you, my man. Like like Urkel said, did I do that? That was all you, fam. Nobody else did that but you. And I get why you did it. I'm not knocking it because it's understandable given, right, the circumstances at the time, the way that the NBA landscape was looking, right? And I am a fan of teams building through the draft as opposed to going the super team route. But if you can do it, it's kind of like, why not? Why wouldn't you do it, right? Who are you proving it to? But we'll see how everything plays out with us this year and with the remainder of next year. So yeah, I do apologize. It is very humid out here, so I get as much water as I can. All right, my favorite part, responding to y'all. Let's start. So Glenn Henderson, 8714. Appreciate you, Glenn. The Summer League is mostly about guard play. Missy is better with a competent point guard and more structure, but his offensive game needs to continue growing in order for the Pelicans to reach their peak. I agree. Normally, the Summer League is about guard play. I know Drew Timme, Kyle Flipikowski, even, Johan Behringer, Yang Hunsoon. There was a lot of bigs who had great Summer Leagues, but by and large, it still is a guard incentivized thing, right? It's very fast paced. It's a lot of pick and rolls, a lot of shot creation, which isn't really stuff for the guards. I mean, isn't stuff for the centers. I'm tripping. Isn't really stuff for the centers. So I'm not so concerned with Eve, but it's just we got to work on that touch. Now, I was impressed with the fact that he was trying to take guys off the dribble. That was a skill set that we had never seen Eve pull off. So if he continues to elevate his game and we see that improvement within within a team structure with a point guard who's going to feed him the ball, and if there's no noticeable growth, then that to me is the biggest problem. But in the meantime, just use that as a wake-up call to get better, And I agree. His offensive game has to expand for us to reach our peak, 100%. So I would love for him to train with Akeem. I don't know what Akeem feels about him, but if he's got any love for him and appreciation, that's exactly who he should train with. Or maybe I could be very wrong. I don't know if Eve is from Cameroon or the Democratic Republic of Congo. But if he is from Cameroon, he should look to train with Joel Embiid. And I know people are gonna make the jokes, but Joel Embiid is a very talented big man, one of the most talented big men of his time. And, I think that would be a good player for him to learn under and get inspiration from. Not in terms of some things or falling in love with a jumper, but in terms of just expanding your skill set, your low post game, footwork, all these different things. So, yeah. But appreciate you, Glenn. Appreciate you. Shaq68. Hey, good to see you again. Reeves is not worth worrying about. Now, Brandon Boston, on the other hand, I believe has potential and can be a solid role player in a championship team. I like Brandon Boston a lot. I think the thing with Brandon Boston that's different than with Antonio Reeves is that Brandon Boston was a top recruit coming out of high school. So there still is a little bit of, okay, like we're expecting this turn up from you where you reascend to that level. I watch a lot of Gil's Arena, and I was watching a clip of Rashad and Gilbert going back and forth. And they were talking about how, because Rashad was, contrary to what people would believe, but Rashad was actually like a top prospect coming out of high school. And he was a college stud. And as a Duke fan, I still had to give him his props. He was definitely a dog for those UNC teams in the early mid 2000s. And Gilbert wasn't a guy who was as ranked, but he fought and clawed his way. He made it happen. And when it's all said and done, obviously Gilbert's the better player, had the better career, but you could argue that Rashad had the better college career. And why? Because, there was a pedigree that he came in with, and it holds weight. It definitely holds weight. But unfortunately, he was his own worst enemy in the NBA. And Gilbert did become his own worst enemy at one point, but he had a peak that was incredibly strong. And if you put Gilbert in today's league, forget about it. With the floor spacing, the way that guards are incentivized versus back then, yeah, Gilbert would do some crazy things in this era. But as it pertains to Brandon Boston versus Antonio Reeves, right? Antonio Reeves was a guy who was very underregarded, underrated, so he plays with that chip on his shoulder. And not saying that Brandon Boston doesn't, because he went from being a top 10 prospect in his class to slipping all the way to the second round. So that obviously adds motivation and a chip to you. But I think that Antonio Reeves just had more love. And then Brandon Boston, I know some people were sad about Brandon Boston, but I think more people are going to be sad about us losing Antonio Reeves. I could be wrong, but that's just what I see because Antonio Reeves was a guy that was such a bright spot for us last year. So, yeah. Shex, again, you dressed up today. Thank you. And, we'll see what happens after this wedding, if I dress up, if I'm going to be looking a little bit more casual. Christopher Church, 2653, I like the drip. Thank you. Appreciate it. But staying on Christopher, PV seems like a Herb Jones light. That's not a bad comp. I think Herb got the wingspan. People forget Herb's wingspan is insane. That's like Tayshaun Prince, Lamar Odom level with his wingspan. But he's a special player, and I think he's going to do a lot for us. Now that he's finally signed again, and I'm very high on Micah Peavy. I think he's going to do a lot of big things for us too. So hey, I'm very excited. But that's not a horrible comp. I think if he can reach the James Posey level, then that's a pick well spent. Very well so. Ricky Pronia 2494. Considering we did not get lucky with a top 4 pick, I think we did pretty good picking these guys. Exactly. We should have, right? If the NFL, if the NBA was set up like the NFL draft, we would have. But that's not the case, and yet we made the most of it. We took chances, we took shots. So, hey, I just feel like we gotta be able to embrace. We gotta be able to embrace what we have on this roster, and we have to be able to be proud of the fact that we were able to pivot and adjust as well as we did. A lot of teams cannot say the same. So, Um, Last comment. I'm gonna actually no, never mind. Yeah, that's. I think that's good. That's gonna be it, y'all. Not a lot of crazy news, but there definitely is gonna be more. There were a lot of articles that were pushing back against Bill Simmons, which I was proud of, because again, respect to Bill Simmons, a guy who influenced me as an NBA writer, a guy who influenced me as a journalist, but I wasn't rocking with the comments that he had about the city of New Orleans. I wasn't rocking with the comments that he had about our fan base and the organization. That wasn't cool to me. And I got family ties to New Orleans, so that I had to really let it sink in. And it's like, again, it's just the condescending smugness. It's like, you know, where I, around people that I know, like sometimes that gets you smacked. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that to happen to Bill, but it's just he runs his mouth with authority, and it's just like, dude, you're a great basketball mind, but you don't know a lot of things outside of sports. I read the great big book of basketball, and there was a lot of times where when he would try to make pop culture or history references, and it would just fall so flat. And it's kind of like, look, I'm not telling you to shut up and dribble or shut up and scribble. Ah, that's a bar. Shut up and scribble. Yo, okay. Hey, I created a phrase. None of y'all, if you use it, you gotta hit me up. You gotta break me off something, okay? Word to Master P. You gotta break them off some, yeah. You gotta break me off something. Shut up and scribble. Yeah, I'm not jacking that whole notion that we don't have enough fans and there's not enough support. I'm not. We actually had more ticket attendance than we were. I think we ranked like 23rd or 24th. So yeah, can it improve? Yes, but to act like we have the most desolate fan base in the world is disrespectful, and it's incorrect. So yeah, Bill, all love and respect to you. I love that book, but you don't know what you're talking about. So I'm glad to see writers with the Pelicans and just in general people pushing back, because again, it's that smugness, it's the condescendingness. It's not needed. It don't solve nothing. So yeah, but that was really like the biggest story. Stay tuned for more. Definitely going to be more content. Can't wait to cover it and break it down. I'm going to look a little bit more tropical next time. But y'all have a great rest of your, rest of your evening or your rest of your morning or daytime, whenever you watch this video. But stay blessed, stay amazing, have a good one. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and support Fan Arch. So, yeah, stay blessed, y'all. Ciao.